Now Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of an harlot. And Gilead begat Jephthah. And Gilead's wife bare him sons, and his wife's sons grew up. And they thrust out Jephthah, and said unto him, Thou shalt not inherit in our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman. Then Jephthah fled from his brethren, and dwelt in the land of Tob. And there were gathered vain men to Jephthah, and went out with him. And it came to pass in process of time, that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. And it was so, that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to fetch Jephthah out of the land of Tob. And they said unto Jephthah, Come, and be our captain, that we may fight with the children of Ammon. And Jephthah said unto the elders of Gilead, Did not ye hate me, and expel me out of my father's house? And why are ye come unto me now, when ye are in distress? And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, Therefore we turn again to thee now, that thou mayest go with us, and fight against the children of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. And Jephthah said unto the elders of Gilead, If ye bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, and the Lord deliver them before me, shall I be your head? And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, The Lord be witness between us, if we do not so according to thy words.
Ask any medievalist for his or her top 5 list of knights from medieval history, and this man will always feature. This is Bertran de Guesclin. No, this is not a recent woke work of art. It was actually unveiled to the French public in 1976 in the city of Bruges, de Guesclin's place of birth. And as far as we know, its sculptor Francis Guinard was no political activist, nor was he one of those Afrocentrists. Indeed, Guinard had no political agenda. However, those who destroyed this statue did. A nationalist group in France bombed the sculpture a year after its unveiling. But why exactly did Guinard choose this representation of de Guesclin, that of an armed, heavy-set black male, one you'd rather not run into at 12 a.m. in a poorly lit alley, say in Peckham, Central Harlem, Chateau Rouge, or any other place frequented by the blacks? Did Guinard know something the average Frenchman from the 1970s did not? What lies behind the enigma of de Guesclin's black statue?
Behold, I am a great sorcerer.
Epic doesn't mean much these days, but when it did, de Guesclin's life easily qualified. Firstborn of French nobles Robert de Guesclin and Jean de Malmont, Bertrand seemed set for life, except for the small problem of, well, his parents hating his guts from the day he was born. JeSuisMort.com. Although he was the eldest of 6 children, his mother gave preference to his 2 younger brothers, and his father treated him rather badly, refusing to train him in chivalry. Close quote. Cuvelier, a medieval poet and biographer, is our main source of information on de Guesclin's life, and the reason we know much of anything about the French knight. Cuvelier's famous Song of Bertran de Guesclin says of Bertrand's parents, they, quote, hated him so much that often in their heart they wanted him to be dead or drowned in running water. Okay. This hatred was so real that de Guesclin was forced to commence adulthood on his own. Banished by his father as a teenager and with no choice but to fend for himself, the French hero left home and tried to make his mark by using the only thing he had, his physical prowess. Although to see him you might not think it. Reportedly diminutive, stocky and with short light calves, de Guesclin toured France, competing in chivalric tournaments and brawling with peasants for a living. This is the making of de Guesclin, because life on the fringes is exactly what refines his skills which earn him a way back into his family, and beyond, to the very summit of French history. So the story goes that de Guesclin attends a large tournament of knights and somehow manages to get himself into a suit of armor needed to take part in the contest. Present and also competing is his estranged father, Robert de Guesclin. But Bertrand, disguised in a full suit of armor and with no collars or coats of arms to mark out his provenance, stuns the crowd by dusting aside knight after knight. Robert de Guesclin, of great notoriety as a knight himself, proceeds to challenge his son. Lesser men might have seized such a chance for vengeance. Not de Guesclin. Quote, "When Bertrand recognized his father's arms, he lowered his lance at once and graciously rode away, and his father, seeing him turn about, thought it was prompted by fear of himself." Close quote. Then something incredible happens. Something like destiny. Cuvelier, Song of de Guesclin, as translated by Nigel Bryant, 2019. Then a knight from Normandy came and charged at Bertrand, determined, and struck off his helmet in full sight of all the lords. He was recognized by his kinsmen and others too, and they all rejoiced, and when his father realized who he was, he came to Bertrand, beaming, and cried aloud, "Truly, dear son, I promise I'll never let you down again, or treat you so unfairly for the rest of my days. You can have your choice of horses, and I'll give you gold and silver without fail so that you can travel far and wide to enhance your prowess, however much it may cost my land. For today you've shown me great courtesy." And so Bertrand is received back into polite society. The rest, as they say, is history. Epic history. De Guesclin rises through the ranks as a military man. He takes center stage at the commencement of the 100 Years' War between France and England, terrorizing English forces. He counters their raids in 1354, seizes by trickery the castle of Grand Fougeray, successfully defends the city of Rennes against an English siege. All this and much more while using Machiavellian tactics before there ever was a Machiavelli. Guerrilla warfare is something de Guesclin excels at. He has no choice. The French crown is notorious for penny pinching. But de Guesclin, familiar with turning the scraps life throws at him into feasts, uses hundreds of men to defeat thousands. An ambush here and an ambush there. He is the embodiment of the infamous motto, "By deceit, thou shalt do war." But this is not his motto. History records another. De Guesclin instead adopts the maxim, "Courage gives what beauty refuses." Only when he is captured later in his career does the King of France finally dig deep to the tune of 100,000 francs, the only amount England will accept for de Guesclin's ransom. Such a ransom is unheard of at the time, but France agrees to pay up. De Guesclin is that important. All rather fascinating, but we still haven't answered the question, why this statue by a sculptor centuries removed from de Guesclin? Well, our answer is one of tragedy and triumph all at once. Remember de Guesclin's motto, "Courage gives what beauty refuses." It wasn't a motto, it was reality. De Guesclin's very dark reality.
What's wrong? The painted man. He haunts my dreams.
This word is all over medieval texts. Ugly, followed very closely by this one, black. If you let some tell it, Europe was white nirvana throughout the Middle Ages. No immigration, no blacks, no browns, no Islam. Bliss, with a very heavy pinch of ignorance. In truth, swathes of southern Europe from the earliest periods of the Middle Ages in 700 AD till as late as the dawn of the Renaissance belonged to a confederation of Africans, proselytes to the new religion of Islam. These African peoples were infamous to their European counterparts for the color of their skin. Black. No, not dark-skinned, not tanned, simply black. Alfonso Eusebio's Historia de España, circa 1260. The Moors wore silk and colorful clothes, which they had taken as booty. Their faces were as black as pitch, the handsomest among them as black as a cooking pot. The vile African people. For in a short time they speedily shattered the greatness of the Goths in a way that man has no words to express. But when land, booty and booty are involved, men's descriptions of each other rarely remain so neutral. So the Moors who overran Spain, Portugal and Italy came to be described not just as black, but also as ugly. Study the records and you'll find this phenomenon showing up again and again, halfway through the medieval period through to its close. Whenever you see Africans described, or people white men called Moors, the appellation follows closely behind: ugly. Christians, Jews and before long, Muslims too. Everybody was at it. Before they were synonymous with Islam, the Moors were first black and ugly. Rodrigo Jimenez de Rada, Archbishop of Toledo, writing in his Historia Arabum, 1245 AD. The Moors jumped out of the mountains naked, with clothes just hanging around their private parts, black-skinned, kinky-haired, and white teeth. The Moors' ugly color on their beautiful horses and gnashing white teeth deterred the multitude of the hostile army. Genesis Rabbah, a medieval dramatization of the book of Genesis from the rabbinic tradition. Abraham said to Sarah, "We have traversed Aram Naharahim and Aram Nahor, and not found a woman as beautiful as you. Now that we are entering Egypt, a country whose inhabitants are black and ugly, say, I pray thee, that thou art my sister." Safarnama, or the Book of Travels, by medieval Persian geographer Nasser Khusro. If from Egypt we go south, and if we go beyond its Nubia region, we arrive at the country of the Masmudi Berbers, a vast region covered with pastures and filled with herds. The inhabitants, who have black skin, are of a vigorous build. We see many soldiers from this country in Egypt. They are ugly and they have a tall stature. They are called Masmudi. And now you're just about ready to unravel the mystery of Guénard's 1976 sculpture. Indeed, the enigma of de Guesclin's black image. Cuvelier, circa 1380 AD. Quote, "I think there was none so ugly, from Rennes to Dinan. He was flat-nosed and black, boorish and uncouth." Another medieval author wrote, quote, "De Guesclin outbid the second one, pointing out to the other two that he was of a robust build, that he had large square fists, that he had skin as black as that of a wild boar, and that one should not be surprised if he also had the strength and courage to match his skin." Close quote. Error, surely. Some mistranslation. Perhaps the descriptions are artistic license? Try again. This from Alexandre Lenoir, a 19th century archaeologist, remarking on de Guesclin's marble effigy at the Basilica of Saint Denis in Paris. He is described as being seen from his statue as of a small stature, but strong, broad shoulders, sinewy arms, his nose short and thick, and his lips thick. His physiognomy had nothing pleasant about it. Close quote. Take a look at your screen. We cannot ascertain if this is the original head detail of de Guesclin's tomb, along with those of past French nobles and monarchs that was destroyed and looted during the French Revolution, with all but two being restored in the 19th century. Of course, marble cannot tell us de Guesclin's skin pigmentation, but make no mistake, what you are looking at, whether from the 14th century or the 19th, is a toned down, idealized representation of de Guesclin's true image. How can we say this for certain? For one, this is not the flat nose spoken of by medieval sources ad nauseum. There's nothing flat about it. Then there's this. Remember the medieval Christian, rabbinic and Arabic quotes from earlier, those calling black people ugly again and again? Well, they are part of a phenomenon historian and anthropologist Dana Reynolds Marniche has called fear of blackness. This is the historically documented stigmatization of the black body for whatever reason: replacement anxieties, political or economic expediency, or Freudian insecurities even. Whatever the reason for it, this singularity has existed since time immemorial and is evidenced in the historical record, staying not just within Europe but spreading to the Semitic and Oriental world. But name-calling wasn't enough. Better to scrub off the evidence of this ugliness, this blackness altogether. De Guesclin would by no means be the first victim of this contagion, nor the last. Not by a long shot. Professor Onyeka Nubia.
There is a John Okami, or John Okumi, living in Hertfordshire in the 16th century. John Okami is a man of African descent who is living with his family. His wife passes away, and he sends out two of his sons to be apprenticed, as you would. He's living at home with his daughter, and he refuses to allow his daughter to be apprenticed. And the church wardens become very angry with him. They say, look, your daughter's of marriageable age. She shouldn't be living with you anymore, John. She should be out being married and having children, having her own family. So they pay him a visit. We know this because in the church warden's accounts for Hertfordshire, there is a lengthy record explaining John Okami's circumstance and situation. Now, the record is fantastically detailed. It talks about his lifestyle and the family's lifestyle, and his daughter is effectively cooking and cleaning and looking after him in the house and what have you. But as you're reading the record, the original 16th century record, you come to the sort of the middle of the account that just explains everything that I've just said. But there is more to the account. But as you turn the page, there is a page that is missing. So someone is, and the page that is missing has been cut out of the church warden's account. The page has been cut out. So you do not know what is next. So for example, we don't know what happened. We don't know whether John Okami's daughter was forced into some sort of marriage. We don't know whether the family was broken up. We don't know, because someone has taken, and it is definitely a pair of scissors or a knife, and they've cut the page out of the book. Now, this kind of thing happens far too frequently when it comes to original documents written in the 15th and 16th century that describe people of African descent. Why does it happen then? Well, there's a number of reasons why. During the 19th century, Victorian writers, Victorian archaeologists, Victorian anthropologists, Victorian Orientalists were keen not only to shape a global or colonial or imperial construct, they were very keen on shaping English identity and English history. This identity and this history had to be a kind of history to justify the imperial, justify the colonialism. And it therefore had to be, inverted commas, a white history, a history of the white people. Any kind of anomaly, ethnic anomaly, had to be eradicated, which is why you find with these very early modern records, they are often being destroyed, truncated in some form. You only see part of the record, or they're being scribbled out. All kinds of things you find with these records.
Now you're looking at a centuries-old statue of Saint Maurice. After the image of the infant Christ and Mary, his is perhaps the most revered image in medieval worship and ritual. Universally accepted as a historical black figure hailing from semi-antiquity, a military leader in Rome's Egyptian division, martyred for his conversion during the early days of Christianity's rise in Europe. But something starts to happen in the late Middle Ages. His popular image begins to be replaced by a more palatable, whiter, less ugly image. Still, St. Maurice survived this Orwellian iconoclasm. Today there remains plenty iconographic evidence to prove that whoever he was African. The same cannot be said of St. George, a black Palestinian officer of Rome whose earliest depictions show him with close curling rounded hair, full lips, a depressed nose bridge, and black to dark brown skin. Today, England's dragon-slaying patron saint looks like this, and his flag used to ward off those who resemble his original image. Unlike Maurice, St. George's transformation took root, quicker, faster, and irreversibly. Princess Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz was said by contemporaries, including her personal physician, to have been rather dark, full-lipped, flat-nosed, with stubborn hair, and above all, quote, ugly. She married into English royalty at the worst time for anyone of that description. Despite her best efforts using 18th century makeup, the anti-slavery campaigner Sir Allan Ramsay refused to paint away the black, opting again and again to point out Emperor George's nakedness, his mulatto bride, the negress Charlotte. James Marion Sims is the pioneering 19th century gynecologist, frustrated with what he believed were white women's short pain thresholds and squeamish sensibilities. So he turns to slaves, not only for his tortuous vaginal experiments, but also for African American women's homegrown knowledge and expertise. When he finally publishes his historical breakthroughs aided by these black women, the images in his textbooks show serene white bodies, blissfully awaiting penetration. Needlemaking was brought to England by a blackamoor who lived during the reign of Henry VIII at Cheapside, London. The original crest of the Worshipful Company of Needlemakers honoured the Moor's memory with this depiction. Today, the Worshipful Company has a more minimalist outlook, but not before they had undergone their own fear of blackness period sometime in the 19th century. The point is well made. But is it? This editing is still taking place. Moulay Ismail, father of the Moroccan Empire in the 18th century, was the son of a black Fulani woman whose favourite wife was herself a feared Fulani. The emperor was depicted this way in his life, and his blackness, even for a mixed person, remarked upon again and again in the historical record. Today, the people of Morocco opt for this as their flagship image of the Sultan. This schizophrenic phenomenon, whatever its ostensible motivations and reasons, has one result: the erasure of black bodies and black excellence from human history. Whether it's Mansa Musa, the famed emperor of Mali, being depicted in video games as a generic Arab man in costume, or Muhammad Ali at Madame Tussauds, it's still happening. Whitewashing, we call it today. Fear of blackness is its true name, and it came long before woke Hollywood and Cleopatra. Fear of blackness might help explain why none of the images of de Guesclin from his time depict him with the dark complexion he was infamous for, nor barely his thick lips and broad nose, though some of the images seem to concede something of a cropped, close-curling, kinky hair texture. Fear of blackness might even explain why Nigel Bryant, the 2019 translator of Cuvelier's biography, also betrays de Guesclin in galling fashion. Remember Cuvelier's quote, "I think there was none so ugly from Rennes to Dinan. He was flat-nosed and black." Yes, that one. Say you failed French at school, you'd still know what this word means. Noir, the French word for black, used by Cuvelier to describe de Guesclin's skin. Nigel Bryant in 2019 translated it as, wait for it, whey-faced. Yes, whey-faced, as in pale, according to Google. Viewer, please pick that jaw back up, we're not done. Say we ignore this fear of blackness to dig deeper. Say we ask why de Guesclin should have been described as black. Would we find that it was a mistake after all, a mere artistic flick of a troubadour's quill? For the truth, you have to go where no one else will, where no one else wants to go. You're not supposed to take them seriously, but members of the House of de Guesclin believed they were descended from Africans. They believed it so much they committed it to parchment, claiming to have hailed from a conquering branch of North African Moors. You can find these accounts in the Roman de Guesclin, a 13th century epic poem centered on Brittany, northwest France. The Roman de Guesclin claims the Moorish rulers of North Africa once invaded Brittany and left Issue before they were beaten back, Issue from which the House of de Guesclin descended. An entry in the Annals of Brittany, a cultural journal from 1899, debunks the claim. But first it tries to make sense of it. Listen carefully. See if you spot anything strange. The motive for this deception is not difficult to unravel. Guillaume d'Ancenis believed he was enhancing the glory of de Guesclin and his family, to which he was related by ties of kinship. This may seem strange to modern readers. Descending from a Saracen or Moorish king who may have been a Negro would do nothing to flatter our vanity. We are today imbued with theories about racial superiority, but these theories are recent. Notice what the writer here does, or better yet, doesn't do. He doesn't try to pretend the Moor and the quote Negro are mutually exclusive. His assumption that the House of de Guesclin were claiming descent from known Negroes counters the presentist biases of our time, the result of a retrospective and Orwellian whitewashing that claims North Africa was always alien to black populations. But no, Africans in all their blackness, though they owned almost all of Spain and Portugal at the height of their Islam-fueled penetration into Europe, never went as far as Brittany. And this is where most want you to stop. Nothing to see here. Except there's more to the story. Much more. While the Moors may not have reached as far as Brittany, they were a constant threat on the border with Spain. The presence of some of their mercenaries and soldiers at Charlemagne's defeat to Basque forces at the border region of Roncevaux Pass led to the Song of Roland, the oldest surviving work of French literature. Listen to how the Moorish element among the Spanish is described. When Roland sees those misbegotten men, who are more black than ink is on the pen, with no part white, only their teeth except, then says that Count, I know now very well that here to die we're bound, as I can tell. Does the House of de Guesclin originate from the alliances that are well known to historians, those that occurred between mercenary Moorish lords and European kings, alliances formed, dissolved and reformed again centuries before Bertran de Guesclin? If so, is de Guesclin something called a throwback child, a well-observed biological phenomenon known technically as genetic atavism, where genes from an ancestor or ancestors lay dormant for generations until randomly thrown together in an infant to bring out traits long latent in the gene pool? Was de Guesclin the evidence of a once frequent mingling of the nations, centuries before his time? Or what of a time not so long before de Guesclin? It wasn't till as late as 1492 that Africans under the Nasrid Moor Emir Boabdil II were finally expelled from Europe by the Spanish. What followed were decades of retaliatory persecution and enslavement of the black population Boabdil left behind. The accounts are numerous and well detailed, stretching into the period of the Spanish Inquisition. Almost unanimously, these were black people. we have detailed paintings of how indispensable these black populations had become to life in places like Spain and Portugal. This individual you can see even wearing the livery of the Order of Santiago, but he is only one of many you can see before you in the painted Spanish Rialto. Expelled from Iberia, some of these people took their Moorish knowledge back to North Africa, but some to England, where they founded monopolies making Moorish or Spanish needles. Some went even further, taking their Moorish arts and medicines to the court of Henry VIII, as did Catherine of Aragon's prized lady-in-waiting, Catalina de Cardones, along with her husband, a renowned Moorish crossbow maker. Some were found in Italy, mistresses to popes, the silenced mothers of Medici princes, and many even as far as Germany. Crest after crest, banner after banner gives testimony to their presence and their impact. Some of the most famous names in European history bear their name. Thomas More of the Moors, Schwartz of Schwarzkopf, the Italian houses of Negri and Nucirelli. And then there's this, quote, "An open letter to the Lord Mayor of London and the aldermen his brethren, and to all other mayors, sheriffs, etc., Her Majesty understanding that there are of late diverse blackamoors brought into the realm, of which kind of people there are already here too many." Elizabeth I, in a letter to the mayors of the English realm, 11th of July, year of our Lord, 1596. Dig deep and the truth becomes clearer and clearer. In a time long gone and yet nearer than we think, black and white came together on the shores of Europe. Sadly, often the products of these unions were frowned upon by European elites with their own agendas. Was de Guesclin such a product, that of an adulterous affair between a Frankish lady and a not so ugly Moor, bodyguard, mercenary knight, or noble? The emirs of Cordoba still held much of Spain in the time of Jeanne de Malmain, de Guesclin's mother. In fact, her son would later be promised lordship over Moorish realms in Spain should he conquer them, a feat he never accomplished. Was this a nod to his very obvious heritage by the French court? Or perhaps these are unfair aspersions cast on a doting, faithful wife? What then of de Guesclin's father? European noblemen were notorious for their illegitimate offsprings. Was de Guesclin like Il Moro, the Medici ruler, the son of an airbrushed Moorish mistress? Was the lady Jeanne de Malmain a cuckold wife forced to play the bitter mother of an unwanted black son? We may never know for sure, but we do have this. The image of a black knight, part of a partially destroyed fresco from the walls of the Hall of Pisanello in the Ducal Palace in Mantua, Italy, painted only decades on from de Guesclin's death. Officially, it is said to represent a mythical tournament of Arthurian knights, which included this black individual, the quote, black of face and limb, mixed race knight of Arthur's Round Table, the Knight Maurienne. That's officially. But are we, in truth, looking at a double entendre? The fame of de Guesclin still fresh in Europe's mind. Is this an artistic admission or callback, an honorary mention of de Guesclin, the black dog of Brocéliande, as he was known to those who hated him, then feared him, before finally loving him? What little remains from centuries of vandalism and obfuscation we can only piece together, picking off where Francis Guinard dared to leave off. Broad nose, full-lipped, and black as ebony. People pay a knight's ransom these days to look like de Guesclin. No, Bertrand's visage was not ugly. It was beautiful. And that because it was black. Okay, Trill Nation, for sure you've loved this video because you've made it this far. So please help us out by clicking like below and subscribing to our channel. Fear of blackness or not, Trill Black will dig on. Go further then and join us on this journey, collaborate with our producers, our team of scholars, soldiers and sages. Hit the join button below to help fund our work. We salute those who already have, distinguished members of the Trill Nation, and the most distinguished, inducted into the Hall of Knights with the sword of de Guesclin himself, coming to Africa and jazz. A special show of thanks goes to the Inner Sanctum of Sages, Black Rampage 2, Andujar Payne, K. Wright Carr, Dante Crane, Kepa Kara, Senosret III. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video and want to find out more of the truth about the Moors, then click the video on your screen right now. From Kush to Compton, over and out, no doubt.